with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, and this is my Monday segment where we talk about real estate. And today we have Jeb Fairchild on our show today. And if you get my newsletter, and you can contact me at LeAnna at LeAnnaBeat.com, and I can send you a copy of it. I talked about who my guests were, and I said that Jeb was coming because we're going to talk a little bit about foundations. And one of the things that happens is when I take a buyer out to go see a house, you know, they're all excited about the floor plan and the decor or lack of decor on a property.
Yeah.
What does the bathroom look like? What does the kitchen look like?
Right.
But when you look at a house, one of the main things you have to look at besides location is the sticks and stones.
Absolutely. Structural integrity.
You're here to talk about the sticks and stones, at
right.
least the stones part of the house. So let's talk about first houses that have basements. Okay. So houses that have basements, when we go, and there's all kinds of basement foundations.
Absolutely.
Because if you have an older house, you're going to have a cinder block. So you want to talk a little bit about what a cinder block foundation is versus a poured foundation?
More common on your newer construction now. You see more poured. You still see a few block. A big thing about your block is it could be more prone to shifting in the clay soil that we have around here. So especially east side of town. Your solid pour concrete, not quite as bad, but you'll still see the movement through it. And of course, your block can be more porous, allow more water penetration through it. Some of it's expected and some of it's taken into reason, and then some of it's already been waterproofed since that time so that no water will penetrate through it. Structurally, if they're both in good condition, you know, they're both going to provide adequate integrity to the home.
So when I go into an older home, and when you talk east of Wichita, you're talking anything east of the Arkansas River.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah,
Right.
so anything east of Lawrence Dumont Stadium has clay soil, and then anything west of has...
Predominantly, it's more of a sandy soil composition on the west side of town. So a lot of your movements that you get, especially where the walls bow in, that's real common to see around our area where it kind of looks like the basement wall's coming in. That signifies a lot with the clay soil. There's excessive hydrostatic soil pressure that causes that and will push those walls in. And then, of course, you know, we have stabilization methods for it. The west side of town doesn't create as much hydrostatic soil pressure because of the sandier soil composition. It doesn't expand and swell as much. So you find significantly less problems on the west side of town. Of course, we see them everywhere. Right.
So when I take a buyer in and they see any crack in any foundation, they start freaking out. And kind of a rule of thumb that I have told them is if you can't stick a number 2 pencil in it and get it back out, it may not be a crack that we need to worry about.
That's absolutely possible. You're, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. You're going to see a lot of cracks in basements around this area. It just happens. The clay soil especially shifts and moves. As everything moves with it, concrete doesn't bend, so it cracks. Kind of like you said, the pencil thing. Another thing I kind of do is see what has moved in conjunction with it. You know, so if there's a crack in a basement wall, but everything seems to be relatively in line and straight, and you know, and there's not movement up above that wall, windows, doors, cracks, and walls, then there's a good chance that it's going to be insignificant to the situation of the crack.
So they're showing us on the picture right now. We were going to talk about that. One of them is this swimming pool that you saved.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So one of them, it shows how the swimming pool came apart from the foundation of the pool.
Right.
And then how you were able to put that back together. So you want to talk a little bit about how you did that?
So I think this particular one, as you can kind of see here towards the back part of her yard, this was for a water control issue. She had no way to handle all this water, and it was all standing by the back side of this pool and by the back side of her fence. And so I think that's the addition of that wall on that one, and we came through and created a drainage solution for her yard.
Oh, okay.
So that water wasn't backing up to the structures and causing other damage, which is just one of the many options is sometimes to get the water away from your structures.
Another photo that you've provided for us today is one of a basement that is bowing in. So we talked a little bit about bowing in. This one didn't just bow in, it just cracked in half.
Okay.
So if they'll bring up that photo, we'll discuss that one. And there it is.
Yeah, this was a basement out in Rose Hill. So clay soil, and this is the block foundation you were talking about, probably around 1950s construction. And what had happened, excessive hydrostatic soil pressure and negative drainage over a long period of time, so that water could just pool up near the foundation. They had jammed that picture on the left, they had jammed that 4x4 post in there to keep that wall from coming completely in.
Well, it went the other way.
Yeah, and then you can see we put the steel I-beams on it and excavated the outside, and that's the same wall that's straight and back intact there on the right-hand side.
That's amazing. So that's what you do.
That's
and then you had
one of
another
ours.
photo of a driveway. And this happens a lot when the driveway is flat and then all of a sudden drops about 4 or 5 inches, typically right where the garage door is. So when you drive your car in, you get this big chunk.
Nice little speed bump coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
so
are pretty
they'll
common.
show that photo. We'll talk a little bit about the before and after there. Oh, we're back to the photo of the basement.
I saw the other one pop up briefly.
Yeah.
And you're right, that's the mud jacking process we use to fix that. It's a huge cost savings over replacement to fix the same type of problem. And what we do there is we just use the same existing concrete, but then we put new grout underneath it to lift it back
There
up
we
into
go.
place. And so you can see there, they probably had a good 4 or 5 inch speed bump going into their garage. You'll see this a lot with concrete that's adjacent to the foundation. It's the overdig from when they poured the foundation. Same thing, we talked about negative drainage in the soil. You got to bring in topsoil and grade it out. Same thing happens with the concrete, but there's no way to bring in that soil. The concrete settles. So you see it a lot, driveways, air conditioner slabs, front steps.
So this is, again, the before and after on a different driveway where it just
Yeah.
peered up one. And again, that's just, sometimes tree roots will do that.
Yeah, absolutely. This particular one, I think it was pinned from the driveway to the garage. So it was just as hollow up there, but the pins had kept it from dropping.
Okay.
And then the concrete started breaking and settling further away from the structure. And so the only part you're able really to get to see the benefit from is there where it leveled out, but probably had to void fill the whole thing.
And I think this is a step that they're looking at here.
Yeah, so they had a 6-inch step before, brought it down to a 3-inch step, it looks like.
Yeah, a little bit easier on your knees.
Absolutely.
So these are all the things that when you go look at a house and it has some of these issues, if the seller has not helped you identify these issues, then I can help you identify these issues and bring a professional like Jeb in to tell us how much it will cost. And when you buy a house that's for sale by owner, sometimes they haven't really looked at these things. You find one that is a bank-owned property that they're selling as is, where is. These are things a professional agent can help you identify and bring in a professional to help us say, yes, this is how much it will cost, this is what we can do, this is what we can work with. So how do they get hold of you?
You can get hold of us through our office, 733-5400. Of course, you can get a hold of us on our website, AAA Basement and Foundation. And we'll be happy to come out, free estimates, take a look at what you have going on. Kind of like LeAnna said, a lot of the stuff you see is scarier than what it really is.
Thank you.
Sometimes
We're
you just need a little
done.
preventative.